We're in top 4 of the Hong Kong Basketball League, and on the left we have Shiu, also known as Percy, and on the right we have Chen Hong, and on the left, Marida is, and on the right, Marida is going to set up the electric terrain, and the Zamazenta and Chen Pao are going to activate their abilities. So right now, this Incineroar is threatening Fake Out damage. And this is actually a Life Orb Maridon on Tan Hong's side. So the full teams are actually on on Percy's side. There is a Rillaboom for the Maridon mirror match specifically, and on Tan Hong's side, it's a more traditional Maridon Lunala team with Ursa Luna. So we see Chen Pao switch out for the Rillaboom, which resets their terrain. But Tan Hong go for the could go for fake out into the Zamazenta and Volt switch out. So we see Incineroar go for the fake outs into the Zamazenta, and Maridon goes for Volt switch into the Rillaboom. However, Rillaboom and Maridon takes some recoil from Life Orb. Tan Hong opts to switch to Lunala. However, I do believe that the turn is in Han Hong's favor. We see we see Percy going for the fake outs into the Incineroar, and we see a terrestrialization coming from Han Hong's side of the field, and the Incineroar terrestrializes into the bug type, and Rillaboom goes for the fake outs into the Incineroar, and Zamazenta goes for the body press, which does a decent chunk into Incineroar, and Lunala opts to just go for the Moongeist beam in order to ship down Zamazenta. And we see Incineroar flinch. So right now, the speed order is unconfirmed. However, we know that Zamazenta moves first, and then it's going to be Lunala, it might be Rillaboom, and then Incineroar as the last. So Zamazenta goes for another body press into the Incineroar, aiming to chip it down so that can the end game. And Rillaboom goes for the not very effective Wood Hammer, which knocks out Tan Hong's Incineroar. Despite it not being not very effective. Lunella goes for a Trick Room. Tan Hong was banking on the Incineroar surviving so that they could U-turn into the Ursa Luna and wreak havoc on Percy's team. But the Incineroar actually fainted, which means that the Ursa Luna comes in without a burn. So this Ursa Luna is really vulnerable right now, as Zamazenta still has terrestrialization available, and it might get hit by a super effective body press in the face. Di Hong really needs to take this time to stop Trick Room, to abuse Trick Room, because Percy could very, very well just start out by just protecting and going for just protecting and going for the protecting and going for fake out with Rillaboom. So we see Rillaboom U-turn into Lunala, which confirms that the Lunala actually is slower, and Chimpao switches in, activates Sword of Rune, and Lunala's Moongeist Beam is going to go into the Chimpao instead. So right now, Lunala is being threatened by Sucker Punch, and the Ursaluna is being threatened by Body Press. especially because grassy terrain cannot heal Lunala back to full HP, which means that Shadow Shield is not active. And not to mention that Percy's just sterilization available, so a Sucker Punch into Lunala and Terra Water and Body Press into the Ursaluna is completely safe. Despite Sword of Ruin lowering your defense of Zamazenta, it is still bulky enough to take a facade because of the +1 defense it gains on entry. Because on entry, um, Sun Hong could switch out the Ursaluna into Miraidon, but Sun Hong needs to play aggressive in order to abuse the full turns of Trick Room. And he has already lost one by going from Protect onto the Ursaluna, so he really needs to make this count. So we see the Sucker Punch go into Lunala, picks up the knockouts, and Lunala faints. As Ursaluna goes for the headlong rush into the Zamazenta, lowering its defenses and barely not doing enough. Maybe Fasado have done enough, but Zamazenta goes for the also the body press into the Ursaluna, and now the opposing Miraidon is being threatened by massive damage from Sword of Ruin boosted Sucker Punch and Sword of Ruin boosted Body Press, because there's still a turn or two of Trick Room left. We see Miraidon's Hadron engine activates, increasing its special attack once again, and we see that Percy actually opts to just bring in Rillaboom instead of Sucker Punching, reading into the Miraidon going for a potential protects, and we see Rillaboom coming in, and Percy regaining terrain control, and if Miraidon protects, it could get a fake out. We see Zamazenta go for the body press. It does a lot of damage into Miraidon, and Miraidon goes for the Electro Drifts instead of going for the protects. So right now, Miraidon is getting shipped down by his own life orb, and not to mention that Rillaboom has priority in the form of Grassy Glide, and this Miraidon is so low on HP that Grassy Glide might just pick up a KO after Trick Room ends. And so Hong decides to throw the towel and concedes game 1. We're moving on to game 2 of top 4 of the Hong Kong Master Ball League, and we see our same lead coming from Chung and Hong. So, on Percy's side, well, same thing happens again. This time, Chen actually a different lead from Hong, my bad. So we see Rillaboom come in, and it is actually being threatened by Incineroar here. Hong could go for the read and go for U-turn or Flare Blitz, and Incineroar actually just switches out into the Lunala. And Miraidon goes to the Volt Switch into Rillaboom. So that could mean that Incineroar is coming back in, it could threaten Fake Outs, and threaten Fake Out into Zamazenta and Miraidon. And actually, Hong opts to bring Whimsicott. That means that all 4 of Hong's Pokemon have been revealed, and the Body Press does go into Lunala, which it's immune to. So Whimsicott is the last Pokemon as revealed on Hong's side, which means that Hong has left behind Ursaluna. And Ursaluna is actually, it's basically third restricted on Hong's side of the field. So it's really awkward to see Hong leave it behind. So we see Whimsicott switch out into actually Miraidon. So yes, Whimsicott does switch out into Miraidon, and Miraidon regains terrain control by activating the Hadron engine and setting up the electric terrain, and activates the electric seed onto the Lunala. So Lunala is now pretty bulky on the physical side of the physical side. So we see Zamazenta go for the body press, does around 50% to Miraidon. Lunala goes for the Moongeist Beam, which, like last game, does around half of Zamazenta's HP in return. And Rillaboom goes for the Wood Hammer that knocks out Miraidon. That's one of Tanihon's restricted gone. And Rillaboom takes some recoil. Tanihon really needs the Lunala to do the heavy lifting. To do the heavy lifting now that Icon is gone. So we see that the Whimsicott opts to encore the Zamazenta, and the Zamazenta is forced to go body press into the Lunala, which is very unfortunate. And the Lunala's Moongeist Beam is going to do decent damage to Rillaboom, around 30 to 40%, 35% more like. And Rillaboom U-turns the Whimsicott, and this Whimsicott is actually the Focus Sash item, which means that, yeah. And we see Chenpao switch in. So, here's her thing. Here's her thing now. Whimsicott is forced to, so right now, Percy is forcing a pin, basically. So, if Whimsicott stays in, it gets hit by the, I guess it'll go crash. But if it, Zihong opts to switch it out, Incineroar is going to get hit by a nasty Swerve boosted body press, which it's not going to survive. So right now, it really feels like Percy is in her driver's seat. And Leon has to terrestrialize the Lunala in order to stand a chance. As this Chenpao is also threatening it with super effective damage, with super effective dark type damage. More than super effective even. We see Whimsicott go for the Tailwind, and Lunala's Terra Fairy is going to. And Lunala's Terra Fairy Moonblast is going to go into Chenpao, which brings it down to Sash. And Chenpao Ice Cream Crash connects into the Whimsicott, which takes it out. And the thing about terrestrializing into Fairy type is that now Body Press can hit you and break the Shadow Shield, which means Lunala is going to take full damage from future attacks. We see Zihong send out Incineroar, and the Intimidate is going to lower Chenpao's attack by one stage. And Zamazenta doesn't really care about that. Zamazenta is locked into Zamazenta is locked into body press, which means that a fake out into the Zamazenta and attack into the Chenpao is completely safe. And Zushong actually just opts to switch out and go into Rillaboom, the Zamazenta, and go for the Rillaboom, which sets up the grassy terrain, which means that all Pokemon get 6.25% of their HP back. You see Incineroar go for the fake out, and Chenpao goes for the Sucker Punch into the Lunala to get some more chip. And we see the Moongeist Beam go into Rillaboom, which knocks it out. Knocks it out. This is still an okay position for Percy here. So we see Dragonite being revealed as the last Pokemon. So right now, there can be you can Sucker Punch and her normal extreme speed. But that's the thing about Dragonite is the thing about this Lunala is that it's got the electric seed. It's so bulky on the physical side, even with the Sword of Rune defense drop, and Dragonite being an insanely strong Pokemon to begin with. We see Terastallization come out from the usual side, and Dragonite Terastallizes to normal, which boosts the extreme speed damage. So right now, Dragonite goes for the +2 priority bracket extreme speed, does a bunch of damage, and Sucker Punch does a little more chip to Lunala, and Lunala goes for the Moonblast into the Dragonite and critting it. And Incineroar goes for Flare Blitz, which knocks out the Dragonites, which means that Zamazenta is left to do some of the heavy lifting. And to think about a Tail Room team like this is that after Tailwind, on the last turn of Tailwind, where you would normally double protect to stall it out, the opponent could use that opportunity to set up Trick Room, and now Incineroar and Lunala are going to be faster than both Zamazenta and Chien-Pao. Right now, Percy needs something in order. Really, really needs something. So Chien-Pao goes for the Ice Crash, attempting to go for the flinch, and we see a Flareless go into Chien-Pao. And Chien-Pao faints because it's red HP. It's rotating, slight bit of recoil, but Zamazenta goes for the body press. And it KOs without a defense boost because it crits. Do we see now? It's down to Lunala, and Lunala goes for a Trick Room. Zamazenta might be out of Moonguy's beam range. Now because of the Grassy Curry recovery, and we see the Moonguy's beam go into the Zamazenta, and Zamazenta lives on 26 HP and goes for the Behemoth Factor retaliation, which knocks out the Lunala of super effective damage. And Chung is your first finalist of the Hong Kong Master Ball League.